Lifestyle choices that you can incorporate into your life? Because this is the question that I get most asked now is, how do I do this? What do I need to do? All right. Well, we're going to get started. It looks like we are now live on YouTube. Welcome to our YouTube audience. It's so good to have everyone here. We have the Win Win Women audience and we have the YouTube audience. You guys are so great and I appreciate the time. I know you could be somewhere else, so I appreciate your being here today. So I made some notes. If you see me glancing to the side from time to time, that's what I'm doing because I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out for you because this is the number one question that I get asked all on a regular basis. And that is either how do I lose weight? How do I keep the weight off? How do I stop yo yo dieting? What can I do where I feel like it's actually a lifestyle that I can live and enjoy as opposed to this thing that kind of lurks behind me? A lot of people, when they are trying to lose weight, one of the things that I notice that they do is they will often have a program that they use when they are living what I'm going to say their normal life. And then when they're on vacation or when I don't know, when they decide that they're going to take some time off or they have an event like a wedding or a birthday party, that they just step away from their lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle, and they feel like they have to make a choice. And I think I did that for a lot of years. I know. So that's a big myth. So we're going to bust that myth. You can actually choose a lifestyle that works when you're celebrating, when you're in times of, working hard to achieve something, when you're under a lot of stress, when you want to relax, when you want to have fun. So this lifestyle goes everywhere with you, which is what you want. You want a portable lifestyle. You don't want one that you have to kind of pack away and then take out of the closet and try again. All right. So that's number one. Number two's big myth that we're going to bust today is that calories are not calories. So every single calorie that you eat is not the same. And if you understand how to use your calories wisely and in the right order, you're going to see that you're going to be able to maintain a healthy weight. And I did a whole show on this last week. So go back and check that one out. And I tried to make it easy for you. I came up with a banking analogy that a lot of people have said is working for them. So go check that out. And then the other myth that I want you to understand, and I actually got this from living in Asia and observing the way Asian women live their life, especially, and that is you don't have to do a tremendous amount of intense exercise to have the body or to maintain the weight and the health that you're looking for. So that's another thing that I think sometimes, at least for me, as I was getting older and I had other responsibilities or what different times in my life when I had a lot of responsibilities or long days, complicated days. I know, like new moms, this can be a challenge too. It's just the idea of like, how do you get that exercise schedule to work? So we're going to take that off the table. You don't actually have to have even a gym membership to maintain a healthy weight. And then I guess if I wanted to bust one more myth today, it would be that everything works for everybody. And so I don't think that's necessarily true, but here's what I do think is true, that when these lifestyle changes that I'm going to incorporate come into your life, you will see change happen. And one or two of these may be your area of greatest need. So, for example, all of the areas I'm going to talk about today will work for everyone. But for some people, focusing more on one aspect is actually going to bring greater results than for another person because we're all individuals. So that's just the one thing that I want to stress because I see this with my friends that are incorporating these lifestyle choices, that for some people, one aspect is working really, really well. And for the other person, maybe that's already going on in their life or they're not seeing the same results. So that's why we're going to talk about a lot of different things today because life is full of variables and so is your health and so is your weight. And I'm glad that I just ended on that sentence because I think it's important for us to remember that being at a healthy weight also means that you get the side benefit. Thanks, Denise Schwindeman, for that wonderful phrase. You get the side benefit of being healthier. And so depending on what your goal is, and I would highly recommend that you come up with a goal, because for some people, the idea of achieving a healthy weight is too much pressure. But for other people, they may be focused on an illness or a disease or a condition that they have, and they really want that gone, and that preoccupies their day and their night anyways. So that being their goal is going to be better than focusing on a number, or on a size of clothing, or on measurements, or on the way you feel, or how much energy you have. So your goal, which you should come up with, we all need goals to achieve them. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering aimlessly in the dark. You wouldn't drive to a new place without a map. You're not going to get to a healthy lifestyle without a plan. So I think it's really important that whatever your goal is, you pick it, you stick with it, and it's meaningful to you. You're going to laugh, but as much as I wanted to lose weight, I really didn't believe I could. And as much as I wanted to have a certain body shape, I didn't think I could, because I thought genetically this was just my body shape and this was the way my body gained and lost weight. So that was not my goal. Ironically, although longevity was what I was studying, I'm not sure that I really, in my heart of hearts, had this great desire to live to 100 or beyond. Sometimes I listen to these doctors and their goal is to live to 120. In my deepest heart, I'm not sure I have a number there. So that really wasn't my goal. Here was my goal. My goal was, I really wanted to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. I wanted to be able to sleep through the night. Menopause had destroyed my sleep. Stress had destroyed my sleep. And I just really wanted that feeling of waking up in the morning refreshed and energized, and to see on my face, sort of a relaxed stance. And I knew somewhere in the recesses of my mind that if I actually worked on this health challenge, and not sleeping is a health challenge. You can call it insomnia if you want. Call it depression. You could call it anxiety. Call it menopause, hormone imbalance, whatever works for you, whatever you're going to name this thing, this goal. What was important was that it was something that I believed I could achieve. Even though it was elusive to me, I knew that in the past I had slept through the night, and that if I did it again, I would feel better. And so that was a goal I could sink my teeth into. So that's tip number one. If you want to lose weight and you can actually envision your perfect body and envision your perfect health, and that can be your goal, then go for that. But if that seems hard for you to wrap your head around, right? So if your belief in that isn't strong enough, then find a goal that is in alignment with that you have a strong belief around. So for me, it was sleeping through the night. Okay. So I'm going to start with that, because I believe that that was the single most important thing that I did that helped me to change the way my body was functioning. Well, it's hard for me to say single most important. It certainly was the one that I wanted the most. And that was the goal of sleeping through the night. Now, I tried a lot of different things, and I don't want to make this about sleep, because I could take each one of these aspects of my life and go into detail, and maybe I'll do that in future podcasts. But the most important thing is that this is what I believe did a tremendous amount of healing in my body, just because of what I know about the importance of sleep and why sleep is critical to our overall health. So how do I achieve that? I'm just going to go through it super quickly. I did use a doTERRA product. I did try everything. So I got the blackout curtains, the blue light glasses. We're going to talk a little bit about circadian rhythm in a minute. But I looked at the sunlight in the morning, and I took walks, and I looked at the sunlight at night. And this is only like 5 or 10 minutes, but I did all the things that the sleep experts recommend. I even went outside of doTERRA to another company to take what I thought was an all natural vitamin for sleep and mind and mood, which helped a little, but didn't help enough until this September, when doTERRA came out with their sleep system. And I can honestly tell you that this is the only thing that's ever worked. So whether I have the blackout curtains or not, doesn't matter. It helps certainly, but it wasn't the thing that made the difference. The glasses didn't make the difference, although I don't think you should be staring at screens really late at night. I think that's bad for your mind. We can talk about that in another podcast too. It's a hard habit to break. I have the habit and I'm still working on it. So I'll just be honest with you. Um, but the sleep system of the Serenity oil and the Shinrin Yoku oil diffused at night, using the Serenity stick on my forearms, along my neck, underneath my nose, on the back of my neck, and taking the Serenity gel cap that has um, the new tart cherry extract in it. So this is all natural. It's amazing to me how drowsy I feel when I use the sleep system, but that has been life changing. And now I am getting 7 hours of sleep a night. I could sleep longer, but my schedule doesn't permit it right now. But that's the beautiful thing, is knowing that if I had a day where I could extend that sleep, that my body would take advantage of it and I would go to sleep for a longer period of time. So that's tip number one. If you're not sleeping through the night, I personally don't think, just from all the research that I've read, that you're going to be able to achieve your ideal weight. So get a handle on that if that's something that you struggle with. Number two is we don't really need 3 meals a day and we don't need to snack. And that was a hard one for me because when I started on this journey, and this part I actually started on in 2020. So this concept of fasting, eliminating meals, eliminating snacking. I was always raised that if you eat a lot of small meals throughout the day, that you'll keep your metabolism high. So your body is like burning energy. And that's what's going to actually like get you to burn more calories, even though you're eating more often. I bought into that because I liked it, because I liked eating and I liked snacking. And it was about, eating lots of little small things throughout the day, which really appealed to me. And I didn't like fasting. I was never good at it, even though it was part of my faith. When I had to fast, I really struggled with it. I was grumpy. I had, like hypoglycemia. I know my insulin was totally out of whack. And yeah, it wasn't good. So I had to slowly train myself to reduce my lifestyle to 2 meals a day, no snacking, and in a window of time. And so for some people, this is called time restricted eating. It's not really fasting in the purest sense of the word, because fasting usually includes like really long fasts, like 24 hours, 36 hours. Sometimes people do fasting for like days. And religious fasts are different, right? Because a lot of religious fasts are bread and water fasts. So that word fasting can take on a lot of different meanings. So I want to specifically tell you what I do. So I have reduced my eating to 2 meals a day and no snack. So for someone who was eating in a 16-hour period, I'm now eating in a 6-hour period. So somewhere between 9:30 in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I allow myself 2 meals. And to be honest with you, like once you eat that one meal, you do train your body to like want to eat again, but I could also skip it. So I also realized like what hunger really means. Hunger means not a desire for food. Hunger occurs when your brain starts to switch off and you're cloudy and your mood is kind of up and down. That's when you know you're hungry. Not when your stomach grumbles. That's actually a physiological thing where the muscles of your stomach are just turning over. But if you don't have food in your stomach, you make that sound. So people think that's hunger, but it's really not. So I'm learning all these things. So I'm passing all of this on to you. So that's just by way of saying that it's working better for me, 2 meals a day, and what is in those meals. So it's important, I think, if you don't have a lot of time, to make things easy for yourself. So for me, the way I make things easy is to go with all whole foods. So I no longer, I would say 99% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, I don't eat things that come out of boxes, bags, shelf stable things, unless the ingredient list is really small and everything on the ingredient list I understand without looking up. And Getting something that says organic on the outside helps a little bit, but you still have to look at the ingredients. And then I asked myself, could I do this myself? Right? Do I have to have this time saving thing? Or is there another way for me to do it? So, like, for example, I may eat an apple instead of applesauce just because taking the time to make applesauce, I might not want to take that time. And eating the apple is just as good and it's easy. So I might do that. I'm probably not going to make my own crackers. And I used to love to eat crackers. So instead of making crackers, I've learned to make sourdough discard flatbreads, which is basically if you make your own sourdough, which is super easy. And I use an heirloom wheat that I get from a place called Sunrise Mills, which is an amazing, it's non-GMO, it's non-enriched. I mean, it's just like amazing flour. And you can make your own sourdough starter. They also sell it. And what's great about that is as you're growing your sourdough, you have to get rid of it. So in getting rid of the sourdough starter, you can kind of make these flatbreads. So that's been my replacement for crackers because I love crackers and cheese and crackers and peanut butter and crackers and anything. And so that's been great because I found a substitute for that and it has a fermented food in it. So that's what I would say is just make your meals out of as many whole foods as you can, go organic if you can, stay away from things that have a long shelf life and a lot of ingredients and a lot of chemicals. That's been another thing so I'm actually eating as much, if not more food than I was before, but I'm eating like zero chemical foods. So no additive foods whatsoever. And that's actually been really, really helpful. The other thing I did is I stopped watching the news. I've stopped watching things that make my head worry and think about things. And I'm not trying to live with my head in the sand, but I am trying to keep myself to my sphere of influence instead of my sphere of interest. So, what do I mean by that? I think oftentimes, especially with the news, we get it's designed to draw us in and make us worry and make us talk about it because that's how they sell advertising. And so if you understand the motivation behind the news, then you can also understand how to limit it. So for example, if there's a big hurricane coming, I really want to know that because I want to protect my family and, move to a safe place. But I don't need to know about every skirmish among every politician. I don't actually need to know every blow by blow moment of every war. I don't need to know about every shooting. I don't, unless I'm going to do something about it. Okay. So if you have a sphere of interest in these areas, right? So, for example, if you are a military commander, then you have a sphere of interest, and you're able to actually act upon what's going on in a war, then you need to know what's going on in a war. But if you are someone who's just watching the news almost like you're watching a train wreck or you're watching an accident on the highway, right? You're rubbernecking. It's like almost like this sick, fascination we have with tragedy, right? That actually works on your stress hormones in a really negative way, and it can cause you to gain weight, and it certainly can cause you to fall into a diseased state and have chronic issues. So unless you have the ability to solve a problem, and look, if you want to take it to prayer, great. If you want to donate money, great. I think all of that's good. But watching the problem over and over and over again is damaging to your health and damaging to your weight. And I think that's why a lot of Americans are overweight because we spend way, way too much time like in deep, deep, deep conversation, even on social media about all this tragedy. So take a look at how much time you're spending on those things. We talked a little bit about this, looking at the sun in the morning for 10 minutes and looking at the sunset at night for 10 minutes. The sunsets and the sunrises are beautiful. I don't know what time you get up and what time you go to sleep. It doesn't matter. But getting sun in your eyes is going to set your circadian rhythm, which also influences the amount of food you turn over into energy and the amount of food that you store. So those are two really important things. It's just a matter of training. If you have a pet, like a dog that needs to be walked, you're probably doing this already. So good for you. And pets are really good for your health. I don't happen to have one, but I'm a big advocate of having pets. I think they're great. So try to do those two things. That's something that I've done that I believe is helping me maintain a healthy weight. Um, I am also a huge, huge, huge fan of tea. Okay. So get the best quality tea you can afford. And I mean it. Like, really look at your budget, really look at the teas that are out there and available to you now. There's some really amazing tea brands. You do not want to drink those tea bags that are basically the dust off the floor of the tea, salon where they're making the tea and that gets scraped into these bags. Like if you're drinking tea, I hate to say it, from the grocery store in these horrible bags that are chemically laden, and you're probably not helping your health. But there's so many great organic tea companies out there, or artisanal tea companies, even companies that have been around for a really, really long time that sell high quality tea. If you're drinking out of bags, ask them what their bags are made out of. Check out those things and make sure they're not carcinogenic. But if they're safe and you want to drink out of tea bags, I even make my own tea bags. You can actually buy sleeves and take loose leaf tea and put them in a clean, you know, tea bag that's not going to do any harm to your life. But tea has so many properties for your health, for your weight, for your skin, for your nails, for your, it is so wonderful. And I would recommend, and someone else recommended this, that you kind of drink your teas in different stages. So your caffeine's in the morning, that's your blacks, your oolongs, your fermented teas, your like heavy green teas, your pu'ers, those are high caffeinated teas. And then you can move into the afternoon, sort of like a lightly caffeinated tea that can be like a white tea or some other green teas. And at night, you should be drinking ginger tea, which I know isn't technically a tea because it doesn't come from the tea plant. It's an infusion, right? An herbal infusion, but you can drink these things while you're not eating, and they're very satiating. And they give you energy, they calm your nerves, and they help your body process toxins. I'm a big believer of tea. A lot of people love coffee while they're in their fasting state. That's fine. Again, make sure it's a clean source, that you're buying, really good coffee. Don't buy the cheap stuff. Otherwise, just drink water. And of course, if you're drinking water, drink good water, right? Drink healthy water. That's important, that you get your water filtered and you're not, the idea is to limit the chemical load on your body, because the higher your chemical load, the greater, the harder, I should say, it is for you to lose weight and to maintain your health. So that's another thing that you want to keep in mind. All right. So the next point is, what else? Sorry, I lost my notes for a minute. You're not coming. All right. Well, we're running out of time anyway. Let's see. I don't know why I can't drag my notes across the screen. I guess if this happens sometime, probably because it's in the way. All right. What else did I want to talk about in terms of, let's try this again. I apologize. Just want to make sure all these points, here we go. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm almost there. Okay. So then the last thing I want to talk about is smart supplementation. So what supplements did I take and how did I use them? So number one, I'm a huge fan of fiber. I think fiber was the key to my weight loss and to keeping it off, and also improving my health and improving my sleep and improving my emotions. I mean, I think across the board, fiber is something that we really, really need to focus on. I know people like to focus on protein, and that's great, but I think fiber is even more important. And here's why. So there's two different kinds of fiber. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So the insoluble fiber is like the stocky parts of the celery that you could chew and chew and chew, and they're not going to really break down. But that's in a lot of other foods that is not so obvious to us, that we swallow and we don't realize that there's insoluble fiber, like in almonds, for example. So when you eat the insoluble fiber, it goes into the first part of your small intestine and it creates sort of like a net. And the net, what happens is it is there to kind of be a guard for all of the things that your body shouldn't absorb, right? Because your small intestine is where we absorb everything. So just think of, we have this net, right? And inside the net comes the soluble fiber. So you need both. So then you have that soluble fiber, and it's like the sticky, gluey stuff. And it actually forms like a thin coating in between the net that the fiber forms. The body's amazing. I mean, honestly, if you start to realize like how complex this system is and how it works, it's incredible. But so now you have this netting. Now you can eat. All right. So if you get that fiber in your gut and it has that beautiful net ready to catch, like I said, limit your chemicals, but it is there to catch the chemicals. It is there to catch the excess sugars. It is there to slow down the absorption of your other food so that your liver doesn't become overtaxed. And mostly for those of us who wanted to lose weight, it is there to reduce the amount of food that is converted to sugar, then becomes stored. And so this is where a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie, and that there is a difference between, for example, eating your fiber first or your fiber last. Because let's just face it, if you were going to go fishing, you wouldn't put the net in the water and walk away, right? Because it's like, all right, so all the fish are gone. What's the point of the net, right? You throw the net in first, then you throw in the bait, and then you let the fish come in. And that's kind of the way we need to think about our digestive system, is that with the nature provided us with fiber, but we've forgotten that we were hunter gatherers, right? So just think about it. I'm walking through the woods and I'm looking for something to, I hate to say it, to kill, to eat. And while I'm walking, I'm also looking for foods that I can forage. That's the way human beings were designed. All those foraging foods that are easy to grab, fruits, vegetables, grasses, spices, all of those things that we used to eat when we were less civilized, and I use that term lightly. Those things have a lot of fiber in them. Okay. Nuts, seeds, berries. Just imagine, instead of walking through the grocery store and picking things, I want you to imagine, if I were outside, where would I find these things? And how would I get to them? And how fast could I eat them? Those are probably the foods with the most fiber. And of course, you can go to the internet and look up all the foods that have fiber, and just make sure that when you're about to eat, that those are the foods that you eat first. Now, I kind of cheat and I use the doTERRA fiber in the greens. So that's what I take right before I eat now. And when I get lazy and I don't do it, I see a difference in my digestion. Now, the dance partner to the fiber is your probiotics. So you want to take your fiber with your probiotics at the beginning of the meal, because not only will that fiber provide a net so that you absorb the right amount of things and you store the right amount of things, but it also, once it gets passed through your small intestine and then down into the colon to be removed from the body, it passes through all of the areas of the body that have the most microbiota, and it becomes food for your microbiota. So when you put your probiotics in your body and you have that fiber there already, then you're feeding the 90% of who you are. Because we read that book, 10% Human, right? So you're 90% microbiome. You got to feed your microbiome, and the fiber is what feeds the microbiome. You also can add more good bacteria into your body by taking a probiotic like Restore, whether it's the stick for your gut or the overall microbiome restoration product called Restore. It's a pill. But those two things with the fiber are going to work hand in hand. And I like to up level it because I don't feel like I'm getting enough greens, especially in the winter. And also I'm cooking for one person for the most part when I make my meals, because I'm eating differently than the rest of my family is ready to eat. So it's easy for me to take a scoop of greens with the fiber, and the greens have a lot of fiber in it. So if you want something that's easy, then before every meal, definitely MetaPower, right? We've talked about that. And MetaPower was also how I jump started my weight loss journey and what I continue to use the system now, the Restore and the fiber and the greens. So those are the supplements that I rely on. And then I also add supplements here and there. I do believe those are good for me. But if you're asking me what I use to lose weight and keep it off, I'm going to say the MetaPower system, the fiber, the greens, and the new Restore products are the things that I have a gut feeling are doing the most work. So our time is up for today. I appreciate your joining me. Now you have some information. I want you to take it and run with it and let me know how it's working for you. And I'll see you next week.